Hello and welcome to the WP Build newsletter number 7. This newsletter is covering the week commencing the 2nd of April 2018 and it was published on the 9th of April 2018. We've got about half WordPress news this week and half non-WordPress news, but we'll jump right in to say that WordPress 4.9.5, the WP Tavern website tells us, squashes 25 bugs. It's available now for download and is highly recommended. It's a security release. 4.9.4 had quite a few bugs in it. And the following security hardening changes have been made. Localhost is no longer treated as the same host by default. Safe redirects are used when redirecting the login page if SSL is forced. Version strings are correctly escaped for use in generator tags. So definitely, as always, you should be updating WordPress core to the latest version. So there is a new one. Go get it if you haven't got it already. Okay, the next one is to say that the latest version of Gutenberg has rolled out. It rolled out on the 5th of April, so just a few days ago. Most notably in 2.6, there's a drag and drop functionality to reorder blocks, so you don't now need to use the arrows. There's improved side UI around the nested groups. And introducing a new block label on hover, focus on the block inspector automatically when the block is selected, and a few other things. There's actually heaps and heaps of things, too many to mention, but obviously if you are experimenting with Gutenberg, you might as well update to 2.6. The new WP Rocket version 3.0 has been announced and they've got an entirely updated UI. So if you were to be using WP Rocket as your caching plugin, expect to see changes. There's an article on the wprocket.me website, so I'm going to link basically to that, and it just highlights what the new changes are. So if you're a WP Rocket person, go and check the website out, because otherwise you might be quite confused with the new layout and the new UI. Okay. The next one is the fact that JetPack 6.0 has been released and it's taking steps towards GDPR compliance. There's a whole load of other things going on, but basically we've all heard about GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation coming out of the EU and enforceable from the 25th of May. Well, JetPack has done a few things to make this compliant, and I'm reading now JetPack 6.0 is available for upgrade. It comes with improvements to the social media icons widget, enhanced brute force protection, and better compatibility between WooCommerce and JetPack. Its headline features, though, are privacy related, as the GDPR regulation is set to go into effect on the 25th of May. In JetPack 6.0, we have a dedicated privacy settings page that links to privacy documents and includes a way to opt out of activity tracking. I would say that if you don't use this, it might be interesting. Sorry, if you don't use this plugin but you're worried about GDPR, it might be quite interesting to see what those documents look like, so that you could possibly crib and season to taste for your own websites. If you're a Beaver Builder user, over on the WordPress.org website, you can find a new add-on called Bridge Add-ons. I haven't actually played with this myself on Beaver Builder, but there are 7 modules which are free to use. They are button, heading, icon list, image, info box, pricing table, and team member. So if you haven't bought things like Power Pack or Ultimate Add-ons, it might be worth checking out this new module new plugin with free modules called Bridge Add-ons. Okay, on the WP Tavern website again, a WordCamp for organisers is in the planning stages. Now, this is quite interesting because if you've been to WordCamps before, they're heavily focused on end users of WordPress, and now we have being organised at some point next year will be a WordCamp specifically for people who organise WordCamps and meetups. And the idea is that you share your combined knowledge, work out what things work and what things don't work, and essentially streamline the process of making WordCamps a better experience for all of us. So go check that out if you're in any way connected with a WordPress meetup or a WordCamp, because I think this is a great initiative. Bob WP tells us about the Amazon Poly plugin for WordPress, and about the fact that now with a simple install of a plugin, you can change your text into audible audio, should I say. Essentially, the Amazon Poly plugin takes your text and turns it into speech, and you can then put that on your website and people can listen to it. It's not really suitable for podcasts, because I think podcasts really need to be read out by a real human, but it's not half bad. And in the future, I think that this kind of technology will get better and better, and you'll be able to very, it'll be very difficult to tell the difference between a human and a bit of AI. So Bob's using it on his website. It actually sounds pretty good. And if you want to listen to an article but you don't have time to read it and sit down, perhaps listening in the car or on the train or something, then this might be perfect. He goes into how to install the plugin and so on and so forth. Pretty useful plugin, I think, and is bound to improve over time. Okay, so now we're moving away from WordPress. TechCrunch, I've got a few articles from them this week telling us about a millimeter wide powered by light camera. So basically, we now have the capacity to have a camera no bigger than a grain of sand, but it also supplies its own power via sunlight. So if it's in sunlight, it'll supply power to itself. In other words, it never needs to be plugged in. A bit of a worry, I suppose, for privacy concerned people, because literally you could hide this object anywhere. I guess getting the data off it is another interesting thought, but yeah, fascinating and really, really tiny. Think about that, a millimeter wide. Google is banning all crypto mining extensions from its Chrome web store. Up until this point, so long as there was the intention to only crypto mine, Google allowed these plugins to leverage JavaScript, which is a ridiculous way of mining, because the opportunity to actually mine and do some real CPU work was ridiculously small. Anyway, they've now banned them all because they think this is just ridiculous and it's getting a bit out of hand, because a lot of people were installing this stuff and pretending that it wasn't really there. So, okay, I think, props to Google for doing that. I think that's a good idea. Perhaps if you're looking for a DNS solution, if you use OpenDNS or Google's DNS or your IPS's DNS, there's a new one, 1.1.1.1, organized by Cloudflare. So apparently it is blisteringly fast. If you install it, they're claiming that you will get the first packet back within a ridiculously small amount of time, something like 14 milliseconds or something like that. The people that I trust who know about these kind of things indeed confirm that this is true. So maybe 1.1.1.1 should be plugged into your computer or router, and then there's I think it's 1.0.0.1 is the secondary one. I can't remember perfectly, but I think that's it. Yeah, 1.0.0.1 would be the redundancy one, the second one. Now, I use Google, goo.gl, as my URL shortener of choice, but apparently it's shutting down. So any links that you've made thus far will live forever, but just a very quick item, go and find another source for your shortening of links. I've moved immediately over to Bitly, which I've always had an account for, but yeah, maybe roll your own solution or find something else, certainly, because you can't create reliable links from this point on. Interesting thing, again, coming out of Google, this is on the Wired website. Google's Fuchsia is an amalgamation of Android and Chrome OS. The two operating systems operate in complete isolation from each other. And the idea is this Fuchsia initiative is going to amalgamate them. It's built off a completely different kernel called Zircon, which until now we've known that Android is based off Linux, and it's not going to be from now on. Who knows if it'll get anywhere and get any traction, but the idea is that next year this united OS will come along and possibly unite your Android device with your Chrome device. It'd be very interesting. Obviously, I think they're competing against Apple with iOS and macOS in this regard. And the last one from today is the fact that if you're a podcaster like me, Skype apparently is going to be offering all sorts of nice new updates to its platform in order to make it possible to stream podcasts with, upper thirds and lower thirds and all of that kind of stuff. And it looks really good. I'm struggling at the moment to decide what's the best way for me to do this. And it feels almost like a webinar platform. You've got multiple screens and you've got displays of who's talking and whatnot. So anyway, if you're doing podcasts or interested in podcasting and you want a free solution, this could be it. Skype. Great. Okay, so that's the news done. I hope you have a pleasant week, and we'll catch you on the podcast on Thursday. Thank you very much for listening.